Because in the long run, if you study some of them, it's called that there's always a place that diverse from each other, in terms of responsibility, is a good idea. And again, it's going to bring about retrenchment of workers. That is the fear, because when you merge, there will be reduction in the number of staff that are working in such establishment. That's the fear of many Nigerians.
Yeah, well, that's it. But by the question you asked, are they going back to the report or to the white paper? I mean, the processes of government are such that once there's a white paper, that tells you the comment or the views of government on a report that was submitted to it, unless for good cause, the government has reason to revisit the report, aspects of the report that may then guide it for subsequent. Otherwise, the takeoff point will be the white paper already issued on that. Bayo Atebe, we'd like to thank you for being around. We didn't have time to discuss what happened in Enugu, where the governor and his team were said to be emergency vulcanizers, deflating the tires of violators of the lockdown. So we'll see you again tomorrow, Bayo.
Tomorrow will be another day.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing how to reopen the economy in the course of or after the lockdown.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Welcome, dear. Have you washed your hands?
Inside my house again. This thing not the key black man.
I don't know if it's misinformation or poor hygiene that will kill you first. Coronavirus is real, and good hygiene practice will save your life. Anyway, no hand washing, no eating.
I will not take care of it. I was one of the parents.
Coronavirus is real and it's on the rise. But you can help yourself and help others to be safe. Remember, we can stop the spread. It's in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Cup after cup. Morning after morning. Start strong. Finish strong. It all starts with a Nescafe.
Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6 foot distance at all times.
Oh, so it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important?
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
You are still watching Good Morning Nigeria. And now, to avoid economic crisis arising from the coronavirus pandemic, the federal government has begun preparation to reopen the nation's economy for businesses to thrive again. Let's now join Abdul Malik Adil on the steps taken so far to achieve that objective.
For more than 4 weeks, the Nigerian economy has witnessed an unprecedented inactivity as a result of measures put in place to combat the COVID-19 pandemic ravaging the world. While these measures are not peculiar to Nigeria, experts, however, insist that it is not sustainable, especially for a developing country like Nigeria. It is in realization of this and to balance the health and wealth of the nation that the federal government unveiled plans for a gradual reopening of the economy, spanning a total of 6 weeks and broken into 3 tranches of 2 weeks each. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says the whole idea is to mitigate and cushion the impact the destruction has had on Nigerians. This is in addition to strengthening public health response, which would ultimately fast-track the recovery of the economy and provide succor to the poor and vulnerable of the society. The process of easing the lockdown required sacrifices on all fronts. This necessitated a guideline which spelled out conduct in public and private places. The strategy included partial restriction of movement, which limited the total operational hours for all commercial banks nationwide from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Interstate travels remained banned except for the movement of goods, especially agro products, petroleum products, and other essential services. There was also an overnight curfew imposition nationwide, which commenced from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily. Air travel ban was extended for both local and international flight, with exemptions to citizens returning from other countries arranged by the federal government. This also comes with a caveat that a mandatory supervised isolation of persons arriving from outside the country be observed for at least 14 days. Experts say, in spite of the COVID-19 challenges, the gradual reopening of the economy is paying off, with Nigerian agricultural produce such as vegetables, hibiscus, jasmine, melon, and other farm produce still in high demand from Europe, Asia and America. With the gradual reopening of the economy amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, the big question is, what does this portend for the Nigerian economy? What other channels should the Nigerian government and other stakeholders explore in resuscitating the nation's economy? Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will provide answers to this and more questions shortly.
Many thanks, Abdul Malik Adio, for that backgrounder. Joining us now to discuss the issue in further detail. Here in the Abuja studios, we would like to welcome Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Capital Market, Nasarawa State University in Kefi, and also one-time Commissioner for Finance in Imo State. Prof, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, and joining us from our Benin Network Center, we have another regular face on Good Morning Nigeria is Professor Mike Obadan. Professor Mike Obadan is a professor of economics and also a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Prof, good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. It's my pleasure to be with you.
All right, and joining us from our Kano studio is Associate Professor of Business Entrepreneurship and Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Kaduna State University, Yoshua Ango. Prof, you're welcome to the program. You're welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning.
Via Skype from Lagos. First, we'd like to introduce Dr. Moda Yusuf, Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries. So it's good to have you this morning with us on the show.
Good morning.
And also in Lagos, we have Dr. Timothy Olaole. Dr. Olaole is the Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA. Good morning to you and welcome to the program.
All right, gentlemen, pleasure to have you again join us on the program. Let's see, we didn't get a response, Kieran, from Dr. Olawale, but I hope that's okay. Let's kick off with Moda Yusuf, who is Director General of SCCI, and indeed, for the other guests, there was always the tension between the necessity of preserving life, which the various responses to the coronavirus pandemic necessitated, as well as, of course, ensuring that livelihoods were not imperiled. But here we are, several weeks now, the tension continues. In your opinion, is this the right time to begin to reduce the tension by further opening up the economy? And if so, what would you like to see?
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigeria. The capacity of the government, whether the federal government or the state government, to manage the social consequences of a prolonged lockdown is very weak. We had that experience in the first phase of the lockdown. We knew the social problems that we had. We knew the security problems that we had across the country, particularly in Lagos. And we also observed the limited capacity of government to deal with these social consequences. The palliatives and all of that government was trying to put in place didn't quite have the right kind of impact. So it became very clear that a prolonged lockdown is not something that is sustainable. As we speak, although we have had a partial easing of the lockdown, at least we have seen some activities in the financial services sector, in the manufacturing, in office administration. Some offices have been opening and so on. But some key sectors of the economy are still under complete lockdown as we speak. I'm talking here of the hospitality industry. So this has to do with all the hotels and all of that. And this is a sector that employs a whole lot of people, directly and indirectly, many of them small businesses that supply one thing or the other. And this is a sector that is also highly labor intensive. The entertainment industry is also under complete lockdown as we speak. I know what entertainment industry means for employment and jobs in Nigeria, particularly in the cities. We have the musicians, the caterers, the rental business people, the decorators, the people who are the tailors, the fashion designers, the makeup artists, the photographers, the video camera people, all sorts of people, the Ashwebi people. There are so many, it's a very long chain of people that have been denied their livelihood. Then, of course, we have the aviation sector, which is also under complete lockdown as we speak. So all of these are still impacting greatly on the economy, both in terms of jobs and in terms of revenue. Revenue to government and revenue to businesses and incomes to individuals. So obviously, of course, the issue of the health security is very paramount. But what I think is important at this stage is for us to see how we can balance what we do with issues of preserving health and what we do about preserving livelihood. So both lives and livelihood are very critical. So what we are proposing, at least in the private sector, is for us to come up with the right kind of framework, possibly sector-specific framework on how we can, deal with the issue of managing the protocols for each of these sectors so that we can manage the spread and support the containment strategies of government. For me, this is the way to go because this pandemic is not something that will go away anytime soon, and we cannot perpetually continue to lock down critical sectors of the economy.
All right, it's interesting, life and livelihood, then a balancing act. We also do that taking cognizance of the nature of a pandemic in question. All of that should come into consideration to be able to have a good balancing act. We appreciate your contribution. Let me remain in Lagos and also talk to Dr. Timothy Olaolu, Director General of Nigerian Employers Consultative Association. Sir, what has become a common phenomenon since the advent of COVID-19 and the subsequent lockdowns across the globe has been loss of jobs for some class of workers. This is resulting from the lockdown. Now, we are easing the lockdown to give chance to other aspects of life, which of course is the economy. Now that we are staging a comeback, what in your opinion should be the right steps to take? Perhaps one, to reabsorb whoever may have lost his job. And again, to sustain those sectors that hitherto had, of course, sacked their workers. Banks are also inclusive in this. So what would you like to see going forward?
Very much. I want to start by saying that the issue of laying off workers or employees is a very difficult option that ordinarily any right-thinking employer or employer that value not only his relationship with his employees, or that also would recollect the massive investment that has gone into developing these employees will hesitate before taking that option. And that is why you discover that in instances where that option is embraced, like we usually tell our members, we said it should be an option to be considered when it becomes extremely inevitable. In other words, you've considered other options, you've taken other steps, you've done cuts here and there to sustain your business, and you have no option. Rather than become an irresponsible or rascal employer, you could consider that option following laid down rules and regulations. With regards to taking back those who might have suffered one separation or the other with their employers, we have also said that it is very mandatory as long as it is not disciplinary measures that necessitated that particular separation, if also it is not a matter of redundancy, which means they are surplus to requirements and you are not supposed to replace. Whatever the case is, it should be those employees that were laid off on account of the inability of you to continue to sustain them on the wage bill that should be first considered with regards to recalling. Let me also say that with regards to the easing of lockdown, I will say that we are not doing well with managing the issue of responsibility, especially with regards to how people have decided to flout the several protocol that has been set both by government and industry operators. Especially also take into consideration the use of the public facilities like the banks, commuters, and the non-implementation of transportation codes and the regulations that has been set by government. And that is why also we have advised our members that you separate what you have control over and what you don't have control over. With regards to the use of public transportation in helping your workers, we have encouraged most of the organizations that could afford introducing more staff buses to do so. That way, they reduce the contacts of their employees vis-a-vis the use of public transport. You also discover that we have also introduced more of finding more accommodation spaces for employees, especially in the factories, so that this issue of commuting by public transport will also be reduced. Having said that, you might want to ask me that because of all these gaps that we have ensured, that we have observed, is it enough for us to go back and say, yes, we should resume lockdown? I will say an absolute no. Rather, what we should try to do is to look at why we have not lived up to expectation. And I think it's more of issues of monitoring and enforcement. Monitoring of compliance and ensuring that we mitigate all those gaps. Enforcement by involving those who are even operators in those particular sectors, especially, for instance, compliance in industries. You discover that the enforcement, the representative bodies are not involved. And this is very important so that they can also take the destiny of their members in their hands and ensure that they do what is right. Enforcement with regards to public transport should also involve the national unions and the employers in those sectors so that we can get it right. And on this note, I also want to say that we can always improve in whatever we have done so far, observe the gaps, and move on into higher level of compliance. So those are my initial thoughts.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Olawale, joining us via Skype from Lagos. Let's go over to our Benin Network Center where we earlier introduced Professor Mike Obada. Professor Mike Obada, give us your own assessment, just from mere casual observation. How much paralysis has the Nigerian economy suffered on account of the various measures introduced to contain COVID-19? And therefore, from that level of paralysis, is it a time for us to begin to wake up? Are we going to wake up gradually or wake up suddenly so that livelihoods get protected ultimately?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Yes, the Nigerian economy has suffered, a large degree of paralysis because of the lockdown. Most production activities outside the agro-allied